Most seven-figure firms are leaving massive revenue on the table because their cold email strategy is broken, and they often don't even realize it. So in this video, I will break down exactly why these email campaigns fail and the simple fixes that will quickly unlock 6 to 7 figures in pipeline for your business. The truth is, I see the same mistakes over and over again: messages that never get opened, offers that aren't structured for cold email, poor campaign optimization, so on and so forth. So for context, my name is Pablo. I'm the founder of Vintascale, a B2B lead generation agency. We send anywhere between 20 to 40,000 cold emails every single month for ourselves and our clients, and we have generated multiple 6 figures in sales pipeline for ourselves and our clients. Now, without further ado, let's dive straight into it. So 7-figure firms often do have a cold outbound element to them. It may not be cold email, it may be cold calling, and they also have a strong inbound stream of leads. So it could be through content, organic content, SEO, cold calling, things like that. But oftentimes it's the cold email that tends to fall apart, or where they leave most of the money on the table. So let's go through this framework. This is just one example of a general sales pipeline that I will build and use for ourselves and or our clients. And depending on things like industry, here's staffing and recruitment, for example, we will build those different lead gen / sales pipelines as well. So that's what we're looking at here. Now, the first thing is the infrastructure. And this is one of the easiest ways that things fall apart, especially with larger businesses, is the infrastructure is not set up right. Infrastructure are really all the things you need to actually send the amount of emails you need to be sending on a daily basis, and everything from the platform to the email reseller to the domains you use and everything in between, and how you warm up the email accounts and things of that nature, right? Backup inboxes, like all that entire system that allows you to actually send emails, and it has to work like a well-oiled machine. And again, this is often where things fall apart, because to make and sustain the kind of revenue that you'd like, you need to send a certain amount of emails, a high volume of emails. And what happens is things break faster. The more emails you send, the faster things break. And so a lot of times I see these larger firms not taking into consideration, number one, just how many emails they need to send in order to actually see the kind of results they want to see. Number two, if they are sending that, they don't consider things like having backup inboxes. They don't consider things like using the right sending platform. They don't consider things like warm-up time, and also having, let's say 30% of their inboxes on reserve / only on warm up, and then the other 70% actively being used in campaigns. They don't consider things like how to split up their inboxes and domains between Google, Outlook, and SMTPs. Where they can be saving costs when it comes to their email infrastructure, things like that. So either they don't send enough emails in which they haven't considered the infrastructure properly, or they do send enough emails in which they haven't considered the safety and stability of the infrastructure. And so what happens is they burn their inboxes a lot faster because they're sending so many emails. And then what happens is after about a month, the campaign falls apart. They got to hit pause on everything, transfer over the campaign to new inboxes, or they got to buy new domains, when really we should have been thinking about this proactively, right? So a good infrastructure really looks like, again, keeping 70 to 80% of your inboxes actively being used in campaigns, and the other 20 to 30% just strictly on reserve or being warmed up, using either Instantly or SmartLead as your sequencer only, using inboxes from primary resellers. It could be, well, I don't want to shout them out right now, but just notable resellers, and only using 2 email addresses per domain. And that should really be the tree or the setup that you use. Sending no more than 20 emails per inbox unless you really know what you're doing, or you have a lead generation agency like ours doing it for you, in which case you can creep up to 25, but really there should be no reason why as to why you need to. I would say just play it safe. Send closer to 20 emails per inbox, 15 to 20, and then just have more inboxes if that's what you need in order to hit your volume. Setting a minimum of 1,000 emails per day. That should be the very, very minimum. And what happens is sometimes people don't hit this volume because they're way too strict with their targeting and things like that. So we'll talk about that. Missing warm-up periods. This should be anywhere between a 14 to 21 day warm-up period. And a lot of times I see larger scale firms just jump a little too quickly and take shortcuts with this. And this is not something you can skip, or else you will land in spam, waste a lot of resources and waste a lot of money. And then for, again, where they get their inboxes, if they are not experienced, I see them diving into private SMTPs or private servers, which you shouldn't do, again, unless you are partnered up with a lead generation agency. And just not having the right balance between Google and Outlook, you should really split it. You should really split it down the middle. Right? You really should split it down the middle. Outlook is better for enterprise, reaching out to enterprise firms. Google, everything else. This week Google will be great. Next week Google will be bad, and Outlook will be great, and vice versa. So you really just need it split down the middle, and then have more than you think you need if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, well, then plan for your budget, of course. But that's really that. Another thing I want to show you. I don't think I have it here actually. I'll link it in the description. But in another video, I was screen recording a sales calculator, which allows you to forecast how many emails you need to send in order to generate the amount of revenue that you want to generate. So using things like that and then doing the backwards math to figure out how many inboxes you actually need, because it'll tell you how many emails you need to send, and then you can just figure out from there how many emails you need, inboxes you need, and from there how many domains you need. That allows us to really be efficient with costs and keep the most lean kind of infrastructure possible. Next, so that was infrastructure. Next is offers. So if a firm is making 7 figures in annual recurring revenue, they definitely have a solid offer or solid set of offers. Where people tend to mess up, and this might be its own video in the future, is structuring their offer for cold email, right? And a 7-figure firm or a high 6 to 7-figure firm, usually there's some kind of social proof, which is great. But if there isn't, and there's a lot of firms that can fly under the radar, a lot of times like an intro offer rather than going straight into a recurring service can work best, right? Where a recurring service works best is if the person sending the email, the company sending the email, the firm is a notable firm, and so that when the recipient would look up the firm on the internet, there's a lot of social proof. But other than that, cold email, people are rather skeptical at the start, and so structuring the offer, perhaps breaking it down into an intro offer versus a recurring offer, or just making the value that much more obvious, or emphasizing a fast turnaround of results, or emphasizing how the risk is removed or how it's made easy on the client, like these little things and how they're structured, guarantees or anything like that. That allows an offer to work on cold traffic, essentially, right? Or things like, you don't pay until we get you the results, which is performance-based, just little things like that. A lot of times people think that they can take their offer that works really well with referrals and just take that and type it up into an email and start sending that email for people who have never heard of your firm. It doesn't really work out all that well, again, unless your name is Gary Vee, for example, right? And you're the CEO of VaynerMedia, or you're Elon Musk, or when they look up your firm, there's such an overwhelming amount of social proof that all those things can be bypassed. So that's offer. Next is lead list. So where 7-figure firms and high 6-figure firms tend to go wrong with lead lists is just not having two things. Number one, being way too stringent on who they target, because a lot of making cold email work, again, is about volume, right? 1,000 emails per day sounds like a lot, but it's really a drop in the bucket when you consider how many people might be in your total addressable market. So don't be too stringent on volume. So that's one thing, because you'd have to make up for the lack of volume with a really high conversion rate, which doesn't work out all that well. And then number two, just not having a thorough understanding of who they need to reach within companies and within departments, or just number three, how to reach them, right? Typically a multiple 6-figure / 7-figure firm will have a good understanding of their industry and things like that, but Oh, and also how to, sorry, but they are likely too stringent and too picky about who they reach out to. And I've seen a lot of campaigns break because of that, or even in our case, there were times where we weren't able to get a client results because they were way too picky on who they should be speaking to. Next is just making sure that the data is cleaned properly. Because let's say you are running a successful firm in that range and you are sending the right amount of emails per day. A lot of the times, things like company name, like little things, personalization, a lot of these things can start to fall apart in a campaign. Perhaps the way the campaign is set up in Clay or whatever platform it is that you're using to clean this stuff, it can't handle the amount of processing power that needs to take place, or perhaps the personalization gets stale and you start moving from personalized emails to just mass market pray and spray emails, which becomes very obvious. And on that note, the copywriting. So those are the lead list issues with copywriting. Where things tend to fall apart again is how we structure the offer for cold email and what we choose to emphasize in the copywriting, right? So in that offer statement specifically, you want to make sure you're emphasizing how this offer is either somewhat novel, easy on the recipient, safe, a big opportunity, or how the results can be achieved quickly. That's really the main thing. Other than that, there's enough social proof. The call to action is usually good enough. But again, it tends to fall apart in this personalization aspect right here, where the emails go, because of the amount of volume that needs to be sent. A lot of times other lead generation agencies or just clients, people who come to us and they explain what they were doing for a cold email. What becomes apparent is their personalization isn't really up to par. As they start sending more and more emails, it becomes less and less relevant, right? Let's see if there's anything else in the copy. That's pretty much it. I mean, at that volume level, you're not really doing Loom campaigns. You're not really doing lead magnet campaigns. You're usually sticking with direct pitch campaigns or direct response campaigns. So, and that is totally fine. Next thing is the campaign management. So again, these little details that are crucial tend to get overlooked when the volume starts to increase. So things like spin taxing and how we navigate around spam filters, right? Little things like spell check, spam tests, you'd be very surprised. Making sure that the launch times are appropriate for the recipient based on where they are located geographically. Again, we have all of these noted down because we've been tracking our results as well. And at one point in time, we've probably made a mistake on each one of these individual boxes that you see. Let's see that not following up enough times and quickly enough as well is a big one. We are a big proponent of responding in 5 minutes or less. When it comes to success multipliers, I mean, at that level, again, firms typically have the right amount of social proof and social presence, so I'm not too worried about that. But a big place where they fall or fail and their campaign falls apart is in the analytics, just the understanding of the analytics of the cold email campaigns. So a lot of times people optimize for reply rates. These firms optimize for high reply rates, but not positive reply rates, right? And they don't really work down the funnel and crack the code step by step or layer by layer. The personalization, again, falls flat as well. There's no real conversion strategy, meaning how do we get a person who has responded to us onto an actual meeting? There's no real plan there. And there's no real framework or metric for success. We like to keep our metric, our goal, which can take, anywhere from 30 to 90 days. Well, up to 90 days to achieve, typically, for good campaigns, is 1 meeting per 1,000 emails sent. Again, another thing is not keeping the reply rate and positive reply rate in perspective versus the campaign strategy, because different campaign strategies have different expectations for what the reply rate, positive reply rate, and then meeting conversion should be as well. And then also just no real scaling strategy. So once you've ran out of your total addressable market, at least on this level, perhaps you're targeting a sub niche right? You're targeting doctors or something like that. Well, how do you expand and scale from there, right? And so I've talked about this in different videos, but adjusting things like the company size that you're targeting, both revenue and headcount, geographic location as well. If you're targeting the United States, well, then places like Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand work well. And then broadening the niche as well. So again, if you're going from marketing agencies for doctors, then it could be marketing agencies for healthcare institutions, period, right, that you're targeting. So just examples like that. But just going through that checklist is what allows us to get consistent results for ourselves and clients as well. And you can use this as well. I will include this as a freebie in the link in the description. Just fill out the Google form, and I'll personally send it to your inbox. Now, that's it for the video. If you run a B2B agency doing north of $20,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue, and you would like us to audit your cold email campaigns or set up and run your cold email campaigns to get you meetings, we can definitely do that for you. Just click the link in the description, and we can jump on a strategy call and see if the math makes sense for you and your business, so we can start getting you some results. All right, guys, see you guys in the next video. I'm out.